All right. So in the social studies 7 through 12 Google folder, I've put in here for you several of the, and I don't know why I did not put the rationales in there. I'll rectify that before, the end of the day. I'll go in there and put the rationales because you are going to need them. So what I have for you are some assessments that the students themselves, the STAR is the students' assessment of their knowledge and skills that have been dictated in the TEKS. So that's this document here. And you have to remember that you're going to be, for your content area, you are going to be looking at 7th and 8th grade, which are in the middle school section. And then you're going to be also looking at those high school courses as well. Those TEKS are the essential knowledge and the essential skills that the state has chosen and dictated that students need to master. They need to master the TEKS in order to be able to do really well. So this is the assessment of their knowledge of the TEKS. And it's a really good assessment for you. How well do you know the TEKS in the different grade, at the different grade levels? Testing your knowledge of the particular facts and the particular skills that the students have to do. If you look at the STAR, you'll be able to see if, once you've done a deep reading, a deep dive, which means that you are analyzing and creating your own sort of knowledge resource or artifact via your study. So you're going to be analyzing your TEKS for this exam. And we'll start in the 7th grade. So I have this link for you here, but I'm just going to go because I think we're open somewhere. It's here. Here is where you will, find the TEKS. Here's the social studies here. So this is the same link that's on that document. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the chat for you so you can click it right now and have that tab opened and just put a star or save it, however you want to do it, because you are going to have to go back to the TEKS and we won't be able to discuss and analyze all of them together. I am going to discuss and analyze a portion with you and model for you how you need to continue the analysis of your TEKS and your standards, because the TEKS are what the students must know before they leave. They must know all these things and they must be able to do all of the things that are stated in this document before they leave your 7th grade class. And so that means that if they have to know all of these things and be able to do all of these things, so do you. You have to know all of the things listed here in this document. You have to be able to do the things that they are, required to be able to do. The skill, reading a graph, for meaning. You have to be able to read graphs for meaning, for information. But there's a third leg to what you have to do, and that portion is sort of illustrated or denoted here in your social studies standards. This is the Bible, if you will, for your content area for social studies 7 through 12. Just looking at the overview page, which just states sort of the broad idea that each standard represents. And I'll tell you, your exam is made up of this document right here, your standards as a professional, and the students' TEKS, those knowledge and skills standards that they set up for the students. So our standards and theirs are what they utilize to make the competencies and the domains. Very, very important that you have read through it once. And reading really is not reading through something is sort of a surface level, is not enough. Let's take a question. Oh my God. Yes, I am talking. What do you mean you can't hear me? That's terrible. Yes, I am talking. Oh my Lord. Let me see. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Like, hopefully, how do I know? Like, can you hear me now? You can hear me now?
Yes, I could hear you. I had it on mute on my end. My bad.
Oh, okay. Thank goodness. I was like, oh my God, was it not? I was talking. I'm so sorry.
No, it was my fault.
So let me just repeat. We just kind of rewind a little bit. You're like, why is she moving from document to document in this silly way? So yeah, I wanted for you to open up that link that I sent you. It's the access to your TEKS. The TEKS are what the essential knowledge and skills, and each content area has them. These are the ones for social studies, and your content area, your certification area is 7 through 12. And so this is everything in the 7th grade that the students have to know, and everything that they have to be able to do, like read graphs for information, right? So if the student needs to know something and they need to be able to do something, you also need to know that and be able to do it. But there's a third leg of your responsibilities, not just knowing the content and being able to do these skills. You also have this document, the social studies standards document, which is very similar to much of the TEKS. You'll see a lot of overlap. You'll see here's geography, here's history. These are the different strands that you'll see the TEKS are organized in. But you have an added leg. You have a responsibility as an educator to implement pedagogical strategies, to plan things, to plan activities like that meet the needs of the particular students that you have and help them grow in their language learning. So their ability to read historical texts and rebuilding their vocabulary and building their language, like utilizing social studies as a place to practice language, like talking about these different ideas, reading about these things, looking at graphics, drawing things, having the students create mini plays after they've read a certain, historical portion, really sort of trying to blend the arts and make these learning experiences fruitful for them and not just direct instruction. I'm teaching to you, you're taking notes, and that's the end of it. We know that that's not the best way to learn. So the standards document and the TEKS need to be so thoroughly investigated. Now, everybody does this differently. I like to write my stuff out. I will show you really quickly. Let me see if it comes up. Recent. Let me see if it's this one. Okay, so this is one student, TEKS, and she just did an instructional strategy that is utilizing metacognition, which in pedagogy, not in pedagogy and everywhere, but in pedagogy, we discuss metacognition because it's so important for us to teach that skill. Meta means me, cognition means thinking. And it's you thinking about your thinking. It's like what happens if you're reading something and perhaps after the paragraph you think to yourself, did I understand? No, I don't even remember what I read. I'm going to reread this right now. I didn't. That's metacognition. You're aware and you're thinking about your thinking. And we need to teach the students this skill to think about their thinking, especially when reading things that are complex and or foreign. So one of the strategies is to sort of paraphrase or rewrite for yourself in your own words different chunks of the text. It's called chunking the text. And it's a strategy we use in ELAR, English Language Arts and Reading. And certainly social studies teachers use it often when they're helping their students, build metacognition skills so that the students are thinking about what they're thinking. Because many times the social studies exams are, oh, were you not able to see? You aren't able to see what I'm showing you right now. That is so annoying. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to show you a really good example of that. I'm sorry that that was like ridiculous while I was up share, and let me start it and just show you my desktop. So there it is. Here is one of my students' art. So this was for, I don't know, art 4. Okay, so level 4. And she, all of the big parts, this is how she wrote hers out. Some people, like me, I like to do mine, like write mine out, possibly draw pictures. Right now I'm utilizing this, trying to learn this tool because I know I need to do a better job. And since I can't show you guys, like with me drawing on my desk, it's a limitation. I have to, oh, here's another one. Let me see. This is the back of her kindergarten. So one of her main strands is historical and cultural relevance, and this is what in kindergarten they have to do. She paraphrased it. I'm sure it was much more than that. And so while you don't have to do it exactly like that, there are different ways of annotating your standards and your TEKS. Some people have done with their studying, like created really sort of great resources for themselves. I told them you should, sell that. If I think you have a good resource, I'm going to tell you, make some money off of that hard work that you did. So invest in yourself in learning and reading the standards. So each one of these you would paraphrase in your own words. For instance, standard 1. And this was, I was doing the PPR yesterday, but let's do social studies for, 7 through 12. And so, standard 1, it's a social studies teacher, has comprehensive. The word comprehensive means something. You have a deep understanding and thorough, like wide scope and, deep depth knowledge of social sciences and recognizes the value of social sciences. That seems kind of vague, right? But you have to have a very deep knowledge of social sciences and understand why it's a content area in the first place. So here are some of the specifics. Philosophical foundations of the social science disciplines, how knowledge generated by social science disciplines affect society and people's lives. So use social science information and ideas to study social phenomena. So right now, things that are happening in the world, the classes are talking about them. They're talking about, if there is a border crisis or what that means. And if there is, what does that say about the state of the world right now? And as an American, sort of moniker is the melting pot and a land of immigrants, what should we do more to help alleviate the crisis in a way that's like humane? That people are having these conversations in classrooms all across the United States. We're supposed to be teaching them like isolation is, or not that in particular, but making connections between things that happened in the past, what's going on right now, how it affects how one thing affects everything else, and then talk about, okay, well, what does that mean for the economy of the people here if we have to, like, really delving into the nitty-gritty of things. Communicate the value of social studies education to a variety of audiences. So you want to get their parents excited, the other teachers excited, community members, have people come and talk to them, have speakers, and like There is nothing, because I mean, I'm telling you, to be a teacher, it is if you do it correctly, it's pretty exhausting, but it's so rewarding that it's okay. And you know, we're like undervalued and underpaid or whatever, but that's how rewarding it is to work with children, that like it's okay. But we have to try to find ways to like include the community, make connections with what the students learning. And it's a nice little break for you to have someone, you know, maybe the mayor of a city or someone on the city council come and speak to the students about what they do and what sort of decisions take place, and just getting them to see, oh, like, oh, these things that we learn about in school, they're actually like out there and people are doing them. And then there's this whole process. So really getting everyone excited about the importance of social studies education and how it affects a lot of legs of our society. Let me see. Relate skills, concepts, and ideas in different social science disciplines. So economy, history, you know, all of the different lenses with which we view social sciences. And you'll see the lenses specifically here, like geography, history, economics, government, citizenship, culture, science, technology, society. So all of these different ways in which social science concepts, ideas, and systems need to be sort of studied and skills acquired in each of those areas, so that the students learn those knowledge, that learn the knowledge and gain the skills. So social studies teacher effectively integrates the various social science disciplines. Again, with that, you're not going to teach in isolation, right? You're not going to talk about history and leave out geography, right? And many times geography plays a really big part as to why things even happen, right? Why did people come over here to America anyway? Like, what were they looking for? And so what is it? Excuse me, there's not one instance where you would just talk about anything sort of in isolation. You want to be effectively sort of braiding, intermeshing, integrating all of the various disciplines together, even if you are teaching, in fact, a geography class. I mean, you can't get away from talking about what kind of people live in this area, right? You cannot separate sort of people, history, place, and systems because they breed together, they're growing together, and it's very difficult, if not impossible, to understand or even talk about them in isolation. So that's what standard 2 is all about. And if we go into deeper detail, you'll see oh, here we looked at that already. And vertical alignment of social studies science in the TEXES essential knowledge and skills from grade level to grade level, including prerequisite knowledge and skills. That's very important. So you should be what that's really saying in small print is that they could test you on your exam over stuff that they should have learned in the 6th grade, because you should know the prerequisite knowledge and skills, which is why I always encourage my students to do a complete TEKS analysis. But many times, because of time, family, work, you know, there's not enough time to do just that thorough enough. So I'd say as long as you go maybe 1 or 2 before, and I can give you a very easy breakdown of this for standard 2, but and let me try to do it here. Standard 2 is mostly about integrating integrating all social sciences. Sciences seamlessly. Okay, so, and then also knowing that fourth grade is Texas history light. Fifth grade is US history light. Sixth grade is world history light. Okay. That's the breakdown, just like the most basic of I spelled light different. The most basic of breakdowns of what, I mean, there that it goes into more detail, right? All the Texas history stuff that they learn in fifth grade. Seventh grade is Texas history dark. You don't know that yet because you haven't done the TEKS deep dive, but standard 3 is about your TEKS. Standard 3 is requiring you to do a TEKS deep dive. Standard 3 is TEKS 7 through 12. And actually it's not, because they told you, warned you, and if it's there in writing, they said it. 2.3K, the vertical alignment of social sciences. And I'm going to just sort of try to illustrate for you here. So it would be vertical alignment would be 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Where's K? K. So I didn't put that, and I'll make it large for you. Sorry, I can't do that. Sorry that's not, why doesn't it? That's so annoying, but you get the idea. This is vertical alignment. And if you're able to see down here, you'd be able to see that I put first, second, third, to kindergarten. Kinder skills should lead them to be prepared for first grade, should lead them to be prepared for second grade. And so actually this breakdown that I have over here for you, so I broke it down from here. This is Texas history light, which is going to correlate with seventh grade because that's Texas history. So what I consider Texas history dark. Seventh grade gets into more detail. So in fourth grade, they were supposed to get the prerequisite skills in the fourth grade for seventh grade. Specifically, in fifth grade, they're not doing Texas history. In sixth grade, they're not doing Texas history. So it's been 2 years since they've done it, which means that in seventh grade, you're going to have to do a lot of like pre-testing their skills, right? Testing their knowledge and skills. They're going to remember some things about the Indians, but you're going to go into deeper detail, right? About the specifics and then the sort of like, dynamics of that time period and, relationships between Native Americans or Native Texans and the settlers. So fourth grade and sixth grade are fourth grade is the prerequisite for seventh grade. So fifth grade, I said, was US history. I'm not sure which one it aligns with because they change it, but actually, you know what? I think it is. It's eighth grade. So fifth grade is US history light and eighth grade is US history dark.
When you say dark, is because it goes more in depth or what?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just thinking in terms of like A team, B team type situation. I don't know why, but and also it gets darker too. You know what I'm saying? Like in seventh grade, you have more serious sort of dark conversations than you do in the fourth grade about like some of the things that we did to the Indians, to be honest with you, so it does get a little bit darker in fifth grade. You're not really talking about some of our dirtier, I mean, you are, but you aren't in the depths of our despair as a nation. And in eighth grade, you certainly have those conversations, and And in even if you're in a district that like maybe adopted a more conservative curriculum, the conversations will still take place, because I have been doing supervision where the curriculum is disgustingly slanted in a way to make slavery not seem so bad. And the kids talk about it, you know what I mean? Because like if they're people of color and their families care about it, then certainly it's like, well, how are you going to say that it was about not losing land instead of like not getting away with doing away with slaves? Because when we talk about the Confederacy and the separation, blah blah blah, when they go over all that stuff in the 8th grade, I've seen some curriculum show that that sort of leave out that it was not about slavery, that the Civil War didn't happen about slavery. It was to preserve their land, to preserve the land, in the defense of land. And so even though that was on the district mandated slide, and this was a district in Texas, the kids called it out. And obviously the teacher had that conversation with them. You know what I mean? What do you do? Lie to them? You can't. You have to talk about, that absolutely.
Right, nowadays, I mean, they have everything in the power of their palm now, right? You could easily search it up. So that's like a good point in regards, because I'm not a teacher yet, but just having those conversations with these kids. So, I mean, they know more nowadays.
You know.
I
know a lot more earlier. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I'm playing catch up with some of the stuff and some of the things that they're learning, and that they learn, it's a lot. So what I mean is in the elementary, because this is one content area, EC through 6, for and they have to take a test for social studies, and they have to do a TEXES deep dive of kindergarten through 6th grade for that exam. Then there's the social studies 4 through 8, which only covers 4th grade through 8th grade, right? So that would be Texas history, light facts and knowledge and skills, world history facts, knowledge and skills, US history, knowledge and skills, and then world history, knowledge and skills, and then Texas history dark, and then US history dark again. And so for yours, it's 7 through 12. I think what's important for you to understand is, and then in grades 7 and 8, they should have received sufficient preparation in their TEKS for 4th and 5th grade, in 4th and 5th grade. They have had a year away from 2 years in between, actually. But in any event, this is what vertical alignment means. It should all align on top of each other to where when they get to the 12th grade, they have had the instruction of particular knowledge and the practice utilizing and gaining, refining particular skills, like research skills, like reading something for bias, like reading a graph or a map or a chart, had ample practice with the different knowledge and skills.
I got you.
All right. So I'm going to just open up in a big way. So you're going to want to print this out. So, and that other art paper that we were looking at for my art student, she wrote like her breakdown of the TEKS, and you don't have to write it down. You can do a digital one. I've had a student do, like I said, really awesome things. Like one did a slide per like particular area, and we'll talk about what I mean area. They call them strands in the TEKS. So let's take a look at standard 3. Like I said, I'm not going to be able to do all of them for you, but you know that you have to look at them individually and see what it is that they're doing in each, what they're asking of you in each area. So this one says the social studies teacher uses knowledge and skills of social studies. So the TEKS, right? Your knowledge of the TEKS is the big one. Your knowledge of the document that we were looking at before and that we will look at again in just a moment. Your knowledge of the TEKS and the same skills that they have to have, you have to have, which is why it's a good practice to take those social studies, the STAR release exams. And they have, not as many as they do for math and reading, because they start testing math and reading in the 3rd grade and they do it every single year. There's like no years off for math and reading from the starting at the 3rd grade. So there's not as many for you to practice with, but it is a good indication of your knowledge of the TEKS, the specific knowledge and skills that they have to have, because that exam is supposed to be an assessment of those specific knowledge and skills that they have to have. It's not going to be quite as challenging, but it is made by the same test maker. So I still think it's a really good, fruitful activity for you to first use it as an assessment tool for yourself. Grade yourself. How well do I know TEKS in the 8th grade level? How well do I know this US history exam? And we'll take a look at some of them in a little bit and see what the questions are like and if we could answer them. So, but this one is the TEKS and pedagogy. Remember, I said you have to know what the students have to know in each of these grade levels, and you have to be able to do what they need to be able to do, those skills. But you also have to plan instruction and implement effective curriculum, instruction, and assessment and evaluation. We instruct, we assess so that we can better instruct, and we assess more. And we don't just assess by giving a quiz. It's a collection of data, always listening to their conversations, giving them small poignant questions at the end of a lesson or as an exit ticket, utilizing planning effective curriculum that is going to be taking into consideration students' real life experiences, prior knowledge, cultural relevance, all of that stuff when you're creating and implementing effective curriculum. Because in order for you to be effective, you have to know your students. Where are they developmentally? So knowing the stages of growth and development, important. Of the group that you are teaching for. 7th grade, the middle grades are kind of funny, kids are going through puberty, their bodies are changing, they're beginning to think abstractly on their own, or they are thinking abstractly on their own, where when they were in kindergarten, we had to be more concrete about every single experience and instructional, get really illustrating always. And that's not to say that students don't need to be illustrated, don't need ideas illustrated. They do. It's just that they're able to abstract ideas, because cognitively at the 7th and 8th grade, their brains are more mapped out. There are more neurological pathways all over their brain for them to abstract, and hopefully enough educational academic experiences and language to continue to build on that. The different types of assessments that are appropriate for evaluating students' needs in the social sciences. So the types of assessments you're using, and that's not always going to be multiple choice or true and false or anything like that. You can even have a conversation with them. Oral language proficiency is very important, and we need the students to be orally proficient in every single content area. So, it used to be just on the shoulders of the English language arts teachers, and we would complain about a lot of it, saying, you guys, they need to be talking and they need to be reading and writing in y'all's classrooms, on a regular basis, where it's part of especially talking, because many decades ago when I started teaching, a quiet classroom was a good classroom. And so a quiet classroom, I know, and as an administrator, I say, is not a classroom that's actively learning. And they're certainly not actively acquiring language. Maybe they're being assessed. And that's not to say that silence doesn't have its purpose, right? There are definitely silent moments, but it can't be, I just talk, then you guys get started and there's no talking. And then there's teachers that just want their day to be peace and silence. And in order for students to learn language, in order for them to learn content specific academic language, they have to hear it being spoken, They have to practice utilizing it. They have to be writing down. They have to be talking to their partners about it in order for that vocabulary to be, be made their own, or those ideas to be made their own. And we want for them to be proficient speakers in all content areas. So the specific state content and performance standards that comprise the areas of social studies, here they are: history, geography, economics, government, citizenship, culture, science, technology, and society. So every year, whether it's or ninth or eighth or seventh or sixth, etc., etc. There's going to be a historical strand, right, of content and performance standards in each of those areas for each of those grade levels, regardless of what the class is. If it is a U.S. history class, that it's U.S. history, but it's going to be about geography and economics and government and citizenship. It's going to be about all of those things always. Remember the interconnectedness and the integrated nature of our study. You also need to know strategies that students with diverse strengths and needs can use to determine word meanings in related texts. So we need to help our students understand more words, more vocabulary instruction, more practice, direct instruction, figuring out a word and text together. Hey guys, let's read. What did they say in the sentences above this sentence and the sentences below? Let's talk about what that means, like actually going through and modeling for them, thinking, showing them, utilizing context clues and or word parts to determine word meaning. That means active practice in vocabulary is something that the state demands of you. So, and it says, use a variety of instructional strategies to ensure all students reading comprehension of content related text. For you, that means social studies related text. And this is something that they just updated, like, well, I guess it says in 2000, but no, these have been updated more recently than that. I don't know why it says just that, because I know the TEXES have been updated before already. But we need everybody to be helping the students understand and think about and practice comprehension of documents related to social sciences. And then in science, they need to be doing that same thing in science and in math and in arts. We need them to be reading and thinking, building their reading and writing and thinking skills in all areas. Just like we wouldn't want for them to like get the math wrong. If you ask them to create a graph and like make predictions about blah blah blah, and the math was all bungled or fake, you wouldn't. That would be preposterous. You'd say, no, do the real math. You have the chart here. Like, and so too with like exercises with reading and writing, making sure that that we're supporting them in their reading skills within the context of social studies. Teach students to so strategies that students with diverse strengths and needs can use to develop content vocabulary. So what are ways to have them build that vocabulary?
So is this standards like kind of like a blueprint or like kind of like an aid to help you out or something?
No, it's the law. It's the law. We are required by law to do every single one of these things. We are required by law every day to know everything that's listed on the left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
And we are required by law to do everything on the skill side here, we have to use a variety of instructional skills. We have to teach students how to locate, retrieve, and retain content-related information from a range of texts and technology. We have to teach students how to locate the meanings and pronunciations of unfamiliar context-related words, using appropriate sources, such as utilizing their dictionaries, utilizing thesauruses and glossaries in, textbooks, using multiple forms of assessment of knowledge and skills to help determine students' progress and needs and to help plan instruction. Remember, we assess not so we could give grades. It's not like so we could be, oh, yay for the A's and boo to the C's and the F's. No, the grades are a reflection of our ability to plan for our students' needs. If the students are not doing well with our assessments, and so that's why you have to be taking all sorts of gathering all sorts of data. Gathering of data is assessment. So if I'm walking around listening to my small groups, then they're doing, like, I gave every chapter a page in our textbook, and the groups are going to, critically read it. They're going to paraphrase in their own words, main parts, find at least 3 images that, don't break any copyright infringement, and put together something like a 1-page slide to present to their peers. And so I can listen to their conversations and walk around and very quickly see if they understood what they read or not by the conversations that they had, and be able to go and over and ask, okay, guys, so what were you saying? So who did you identify as the aggressors? And then correct, mediate that, reteach there for understanding, or have that, let them, don't be too quick to jump in. Kids are really smart. And if you have, planned and part of planning, not just your lesson plan and the resources, technology, tools, videos, visuals that you're going to utilize in order to illustrate the ideas, concepts, or skills, but also your careful planning of the groups. You want to have groups that are going to help each other. Like, don't make your job more difficult, and have okay, guys, put yourself in groups of 4, and then you have like 3 kids that got lumped together because nobody really wanted to get them, and then they're sitting there looking at each other. You want to group them so that they can help each other. You want to have a smart sort of group where you have high achieving students with maybe more skills that are going to be modeling as they're having these group work experiences. Every single moment in the classroom is a learning experience if you plan it that way. Planning, and if you have ELL students, making sure that your beginner or your intermediates are certainly there with people who speak the native language as well, at least one person there, and speaks their native language, and they are native English speakers, or at the very least advanced high speakers. So being thoughtful on planning about having people, different cultures, different socioeconomic groups. People are friends because they have similar interests. They're kind of the same. And when you say go get into groups, people are going to go to their friends. And if you're talking about a topic, a concept, a historical event or fact or person, and you only get the perspective of your group of friends, how boring and not enriching. What a loss of a great opportunity, because people come from so many different places with so many different experiences. And so really making sure that your planning of the grouping is diverse so that the students can help each other learn. You cannot make them, you cannot do all the work, all the language work, all the, utilize them when possible, especially in these planned activities, and listen to them and assess their knowledge in that way, utilizing multiple forms. Yes, you can use multiple choice. Yes, you should, test their writing skills and sometimes have them do essays or written tests, but have them do drawings, have them come up with a comedic, tableau of the historical event as their and show why it's ironic. Find ways to include things that they find interesting and would find fun, and also give them options. Students love to feel like they have power. Think about who in the world is like the least powerful people, and it's like kids, they have no power with their parents, no power at school, and so very little of their decisions are made on their own. And so if they get to choose, like, okay, I could either take a multiple choice test. Some people like that, they're better, and they're like, yeah, give me the 10 question quiz and I am done. And then the art students like, no, I want to draw you the whole scene. And I'm like, cool, and they do it, and it's beautiful and amazing and just as fabulous. And it wasn't, I'm testing their knowledge of an event, not their ability to circle bubbles. And so let your students shine in whatever form or fashion. If I'm not specifically grading your writing skills, then sure, you can draw me a picture instead, or you can present it to me in a PowerPoint, or have perform an oral sort of like speech type performance. So there's lots of ways to assess your students' progress, but you always want to take that information and make sure that you plan, use that information to help you plan better. Keep abreast and apply current research trends, practices in social science, education. So you should be reading professional journals, like social studies journals. I know it sounds silly. It doesn't even for me, but I'm such a nerd. So I have 2 master's degrees, and my first, it was in English language arts, in rhetoric, but with a focus on rhetoric and composition and linguistics. So I, for a long time, read journals, academic journals, just because I needed to, like in class, right? I was a teacher and I'm in grad school. And then I wrote my own thesis, which, is an academic piece. And I realized like what a resource other teachers were in the classroom and in the some of the pieces that were being produced. And so it is important to stay connected. It's not something that you have to do like every single day, but if you haven't read something from like a professional journal, or like, something having to do with your ways in which to enrich your instruction once a month, I think is like kind of on the lazy side. Maybe like once a week, like make it a point to look something up and just read it, keep it fresh. There's always really cool stuff available on Pinterest, like activities that they do, projects that they do. Let me see if they have, I'm not so sure like how great, I'm sure they are, because all the teachers are great ever, but like how they social studies teachers, let me just look. Social studies Texas. Oh, look, it says 4th grade. It says 6th grade, 3rd grade, but we'll just look at what light looks like. So here is Texas revolution, some of the things and the takeaways. So annexation of Texas. So let's do 7th grade, because we're going to go look at those TEKs right now. They learn a lot about the missions. And so you'll have to learn some of that stuff too. And I'm going to go to the 7th grade. So each one of these paragraphs, I'd like for you, like, so this one right here, it's a pretty big one. So you might need a couple of sentences to paraphrase what it's mostly about. But if I had to be super quick about it, it's mostly about just Texas history. It is like the extension of what they learned in grade 5 concerning grade 4 Because remember, grade 4 is the prerequisite. I'm going to type that here so we don't forget it for grade 4 is the prereq for 7th, right? And it's students' study of Texas history from early times to present. Content is presented with more depth and breadth than 4th. Students examine the full scope of Texas history. Remember, I said 4th grade, Texas history light. 7th grade, Texas history dark. We're really getting into the deep, including natural Texas and its people, age of contact, Spanish colonial, Mexican national, Revolutionary Republic, early statehood, Texas in the Civil War and Reconstruction, cotton, cattle, and railroads, the age of oil, Texas in the Great Depression and World War II, civil rights, conservatism, and contemporary Texas eras. The focus of each era is on key individuals. So any individual that you don't know in this document, you must look up and jot down the simplest summarization of what they are as far as Texas is concerned. Any event you aren't familiar with, just Google it really quickly. There are so many wonderful videos on YouTube, and I've Googled many of these things that I've gone through with students when we do a deep dive, and I'm like, I have no idea. I've never heard of that battle before. We look it up and it has to do like, I believe it's in 7th grade, actually. It's in this document. And we looked it up, and then there's like a battle of Turtle Lake or Turtle Creek or something like that. Maybe I'm making it up. I might be. But it's I think it was over empresarios and needing the land back or unpaid debts. I'm not sure. There's a lot of debt and land going back and forth. Oh, yeah. The issues and their impact on Texas, right? Students identify regions of Texas and the distribution of the population within and among the regions, and explain factors that cause Texas to change from an agrarian to an urban society. So you need to know what the difference between these two are and how we once were this and now we are an urban society. Students describe the structure and function of municipal, county, and state governments, explain the influence of the U.S. Constitution on the Texas Constitution. And they should have knowledge of the U.S. Constitution from their 5th grade class, right? That because U.S. history prerequisite is 5th grade. So they'll have that for you already for this leg, but you might have to reteach some of the stuff depending on what they remember about the U.S. Constitution when you're going over the Texas Constitution. Examine rights and responsibilities of Texas citizens. Students use primary and secondary sources to examine rich and diverse cultural background of Texas. So it's our job to make sure we show all the different cultures and give them, all of them, sort of highlight as they identify the different racial and ethnic groups that settled in Texas to build a republic and then state. Students analyze the impact of scientific discoveries and technological innovations on the development of Texas in various industries. So these are industries that are so key to Texas that we study them in the study of history. They use primary and secondary sources to acquire information about Texas with regard to this. So it's everything Texas. To support the teaching of the essential knowledge and these essential skills, use a variety of rich primary and secondary source material, such as biographies, autobiographies, use novels, speeches, letters, diaries, poetry, songs, and images is encouraged. Yes, you should be doing that all the time from those historical places. Motivating resources are available from museums, historical sites, presidential libraries, local and state preservation societies. There is just so much available digitally. Like when I started teaching was in 2003, 2004, and we didn't have the internet that year. Like we didn't do anything on the internet. Like, yes, there was internet for email, but we still were like dial up and we didn't do grades on the internet, like none of that. Yeah, there wasn't even a system for that yet. Or attendance on the internet. We still did paper attendance. So the changes now that are available for like social studies teachers to do like museum visits and like videos for different like historical sites and reenactments of things. I mean, there's just so much available now, and different ways of illustrating these events, ideas, and people, and then having rich discussions about them and posing mindful questions to sort of assess their understanding of some of those deeper concepts. So the 8 strands, yours have strands. Remember, I told you there were strands, that's how they spoke about those different categories with which you will consistently vertically through all the grade levels be hitting on with your TEKS. And I believe they're the rest of your standards. Like if we go back, we'll look, one is geography, one is history, so on and so forth. So, and skills listed in the social studies skills strand in subsection B of this should be incorporated into all teaching of the TEKS for social studies. So anything that says social studies skills strand needs to be practiced every day, all the time, while you're doing the other TEKS as well. And so we'll look at what those are. A greater depth of understanding of complex material may be attained when integrated social studies content from various disciplines and critical thinking skills are taught together. Statements that, okay, so students identify the role of the U.S. free enterprise system within the parameters of this course and understand that this system may also be referenced as capitalism or free market system. Throughout social studies, kinder through 12, students have to build on these foundations. Remember, history, geography, these are on your standards. Economics, government, citizenship, culture, science, technology, and society. And then those social studies skills, right? Those ones that need to be taught in conjunction. We need to have the student to be, our instruction should enable them to understand the importance of patriotism, the function of free enterprise, and appreciate the democratic values of our state and nation as referenced in the law, the Texas Education Code. Let me see. This is important. Each social studies class, every single class, with the exception of kindergarten, it has to participate in freedom. They have to celebrate Freedom Week. Each social studies class will include Freedom Week. Every single year you have to, even if you can't do it the same week as everyone else, you have to get it in. And it reviews meaning and importance of the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights. The study of the Declaration of Independence must include the study and the relationships of ideas expressed in the document and subsequent American history. This takes place every single year except for in kindergarten. Each district shall require that during Celebrate Freedom Week or the other week of instruction as prescribed, like if you had to change the week and it's not the one they said, students in grades 3 through 12, important for you to know, have to study and recite the following text from the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that amongst these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So they have to memorize and read that discuss and talk about that, grades 3 through 12. So here you have history, another history, and history, still the history stand, but this here is your TEK, and these are things that you must, cover. Student understands how individuals, events, and issues related to the Texas Revolution. This TEK is about individuals, events, and issues related to the Texas Revolution and how that shaped the influences. And so they're expected to do these things. They have to describe chain of events that led, including, oh, here it is, the Fredonian Rebellion. And there's another one, I swear it's some turtle something. But the one I was talking about, I had to
What's
look up.
Turtle
What?
resolutions?
Excuse me?
Is that what you're talking about? The Turtle Bay now?
Yes. The Turtle Bayou resolutions. See, it's the same one. I had to look up these two. I did not know what they were and the chain of events that led to. But after careful research, and it wasn't even very much, on YouTube, and I think I have them now in the videos. Let me take a look. But if they have to know it, who that person, event, or issue is or was, you have to know it too. So
Yeah.
you have to jot it down, draw a picture. You have to be able to identify on a map where the Indians lived, what Indians lived where. Yes.
They're hungry and a tiger is something.
Oh my gosh, they're hungry.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to go, but you have your assignment for next time, and when we meet again, we'll take a look at some of your work and maybe some practice questions to make sure we get some of that pedagogy and those reading strategies down.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds definitely like a plan. I do appreciate your time that you dedicated to me today.
Absolutely.
Sounds good to me then.
Okay, so I will see you again soon.